You've been singing your whole life with the wrong voice type. And I'm not being dramatic. Most people have no idea where their voice actually belongs, which is why singing feels harder than it should. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to walk you through every single voice type that exists, from the highest soprano to the deepest bass. And by the end, you'll know exactly which one is yours. So here's the thing. When most people think about voice types, they think it's just about how high or low you can sing. But that's like saying a car is just about how fast it goes. There's so much more under the hood. Your voice type is determined by three things. Your range, your tessitura, which is basically where your voice feels most comfortable, and your timbre, which is the unique color or texture of your sound. Two people can hit the exact same notes, but sound completely different. That's timbre. It's your vocal fingerprint. Now, let's break down each type. And I'm going to make this simple, because honestly, most explanations make it way more complicated than it needs to be. Starting with the highest, soprano. This is the queen of high notes. Sopranos typically sing from middle C up to high C, sometimes even higher. Think of those soaring melodies in opera or the lead in almost every Disney movie. If your voice floats effortlessly in that upper range and feels thin or strained down low, you're probably a soprano. But wait, there are actually subtypes here. You've got lyric sopranos who sound warm and sweet, coloratura sopranos who can do those crazy fast runs and trills, and dramatic sopranos who have this rich, powerful sound that fills a whole concert hall. Moving down, we hit mezzo-soprano. This is the middle child of female voices, and honestly, it's one of the most versatile. Mezzos have a warm, full tone and sit comfortably between soprano and alto. Their range is usually a below middle C to 2 octaves up. A lot of famous pop singers are actually mezzos. Adele, Lady Gaga, Beyonce. If you can belt those powerful mid-range notes, but high soprano stuff feels like screaming, you might be a mezzo. And then there's alto, or contralto if we're being fancy. This is the lowest female voice type, and honestly, it's kind of rare. True contraltos have this deep, rich, almost velvety sound. Their range dips down to F below middle C and up to about F5. Here's something interesting. A lot of women think they're altos just because they can't hit high notes easily. But that's not how it works. A true contralto sounds rich and powerful in those low notes, not strained. If you're straining down there, you might actually be a mezzo who just needs more training up high. Okay, that's the female voices. But here's where it gets interesting. The male voice types have their own surprises. And one of them is way more common than you'd think. Let's start high, tenor. Tenors are the rock stars of the male voice world. They hit those high, ringing notes that make crowds go wild. Range is typically C3 to C5. That's from the C an octave below middle C up to the C above it. Most male pop singers, boy band members, and leading men in musicals are tenors. There's something about that bright, cutting tone that just grabs attention. But just like sopranos, tenors come in flavors. Lyric tenors sound sweet and smooth. Dramatic tenors have weight and power. And then there's the spinto tenor, kind of a hybrid that can do both. Now, baritone. This is actually the most common male voice type. If you're a guy and you're not sure what you are, statistically speaking, you're probably a baritone. Baritones sit right in the middle, range from A2 to A4. Not too high, not too low. Think of that warm, conversational singing voice. Most speaking voices fall here too, which is why baritones often sound the most normal when they sing. Famous baritones? John Legend, Hozier, Elvis Presley. There's this richness without being too dark. And finally, the big boy bass. This is the lowest of the low. True basses can rumble down to E2, some even lower, and their top end sits around E4. That deep, resonant, almost thunderous sound? That's bass territory. Bass singers are rare, especially really deep ones. They're the foundation in choral music, the villain in operas. There's something about a deep voice that commands a different kind of attention. So those are the main 6. But here's the thing. I haven't told you about the voices that don't fit neatly into any box. And some of these are going to surprise you. So how do you figure out where you fit? First, forget about extremes. Don't test yourself by seeing how high or low you can possibly go. That's not useful. Anyone can squeak out a high note or growl, something low if they try hard enough. Instead, pay attention to where your voice feels easy. What does it feel like you're just talking at a higher volume? That's your tessitura, your sweet spot. Second, record yourself. I know, nobody likes hearing their own voice, but you need to hear your timbre objectively. Does it sound bright and light, warm and round, dark and rich? Third, work with what you have. If you're a baritone trying to be a tenor, you're going to hurt yourself. Literally, vocal damage is real. But if you're a baritone who develops your upper range properly, you can absolutely sing tenor songs, just in your own way. And fourth, be patient. Here's something most people don't know. Your voice type can actually shift over time. Hormones, age, training, it all plays a role. Some people don't fully settle into their true voice type until their late 20s or even 30s. So there you have it. Every major voice type, broken down in 12 minutes. Sopranos, mezzo-sopranos, altos, tenors, baritones, basses, and all the interesting variations in between. Now here's what I want you to do. In the comments, tell me what voice type you think you are and why. I read every single one, and honestly, I love seeing people figure this stuff out. And if you're still not sure, don't worry. Because in the next part, we're going to look at what your voice type says about you. And yeah, it reveals way more than you'd expect. Your voice is a snitch. It's been telling people things about you, your confidence, your personality, even how trustworthy you are. And you had no idea. Turns out, the pitch and tone of your voice doesn't just determine what songs you can sing. It actually reveals deep patterns about who you are. And there's science to back it up. Let me start with something that might make you a little uncomfortable. When you walk into a room and say hello, people are already judging you. Not consciously, but their brains are processing your voice and making snap decisions about your personality, your competence, and even whether they should trust you. This is an opinion. There have been decades of research on this. Studies show that people with deeper voices are perceived as more dominant, more confident, and more authoritative. That's why CEOs and political leaders tend to have lower-pitched voices. It's not a coincidence. But here's the twist. Higher-pitched voices are perceived as more approachable, more friendly, and more youthful. And in certain contexts, like customer service or teaching, that's actually an advantage. So it's not about one being better than the other. It's about what your voice is signaling without your permission. But that's just perception. Let's talk about what your voice type might actually reveal about your real personality. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm not saying your voice type locks you into a personality box. But researchers have found some fascinating correlations, patterns that show up again and again. Deep voices, basses, and low baritones tend to correlate with traits like calmness, groundedness, and introspection. There's a steadiness there. These are often the people who speak less, but when they do, everyone listens. Mid-range voices, baritones, and mezzo-sopranos are often associated with balance and adaptability. These people tend to be social chameleons. They can adjust their energy to fit the room. Higher voices, tenors and sopranos often correlate with higher energy, expressiveness, and extroversion. There's a brightness to the personality that matches the brightness in the voice. And here's something wild. Some studies suggest that people unconsciously choose professions that match their voice type. Think about it. How many radio hosts or podcast narrators have deep, resonant voices? How many kindergarten teachers have warm, higher-pitched voices? We're drawn to roles where our voice helps
Breaking
us
free
succeed.
from old categories
But why?
opens
Why would
us
voice
to
type
discovery,
connect to
revealing
personality
the
at
true
all?
nature of tone,
It comes down to
range,
biology.
how
Your voice is shaped by your vocal cords, their length, thickness, and tension. But those physical traits are influenced by hormones, specifically testosterone and estrogen, during development. Higher testosterone levels tend to create longer, thicker vocal cords, resulting in deeper voices. And testosterone is also linked to traits like assertiveness, risk-taking, and dominance. Lower testosterone often means shorter, thinner chords, higher pitch. And those same hormonal profiles correlate with different personality tendencies. So your voice isn't just revealing who you are. It's a physical echo of the same biological factors that shaped your personality in the first place. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your voice isn't just revealing who you are, It's actually shaping how you become. This is the part that blew my mind when I learned it. Your voice type doesn't just reflect your personality. It actively shapes it. Think about it. If you have a deep, authoritative voice, people treat you differently from day one. Teachers take you more seriously. Strangers give you more respect. You're more likely to be chosen as a leader. And when people treat you like a leader for years, guess what happens? You start acting like one. You develop confidence. You step into authority roles. The expectation becomes the reality. The same thing happens in reverse. If you have a higher, softer voice, people might baby you more, dismiss you faster, or expect you to be agreeable. And over time, that shapes behavior too. This is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your voice creates expectations, and you rise or fall to meet them. Now, this isn't destiny. You can absolutely push against those expectations. But understanding them, that's powerful, because once you know the game, you can play it better. So what do you do with this information? First, listen to yourself. Actually pay attention to your natural voice, not the one you put on in certain situations. What does it reveal about how you show up in the world? Second, understand your advantages. If you have a deep voice, lean into roles and situations where authority and calm are valued. If you have a higher voice, recognize that your approachability is a strength in connection-based environments. Third, don't fight your nature, but expand it. You can train your voice to access different parts of your range. Actors do it all the time. A natural tenor can learn to speak with more weight when they need authority. A bass can learn to lighten up when warmth is required. Your voice type is a starting point, not a sentence. Here's the bottom line. Your voice has been telling a story about you since the day you first spoke. Most people never realize it, but now you do. So the question is, are you using that to your advantage? Or are you letting it work against you without even knowing? Drop a comment and tell me. Now that you know this, what does your voice reveal? I'm genuinely curious. And if you want to go even deeper, because we've barely scratched the surface, stick around. Because I'm about to share 14 secrets about voice types that even most singers don't know. And number 7 is going to change how you think about your voice forever. Here's a secret professional singers don't want you to know. Your voice type is lying to you. Not completely, but there are things about it that nobody ever explains. I'm about to share 14 voice type secrets that can change how you sing, how you speak, and how you understand your own instrument. Some of these are going to surprise you. Others might actually upset you. Let's get into it. I know, everyone acts like you're born a soprano or bass, and that's it forever. But that's not true. Hormones, aging, vocal training, even illness can shift your voice type over time. Male voices typically drop dramatically during puberty. Everyone knows that. But they can continue settling into their late 20s. Female voices also shift, especially after pregnancy or menopause. Hormonal changes literally reshape your vocal cords. So if you were told you're one type at 18 and you're 30 now, it might be time for a reassessment. Here's something voice teachers don't advertise. The majority of singers are walking around with the wrong label, usually because they tested at the wrong time, didn't have proper training, or got classified by someone who didn't know what they were doing. The biggest mistake? Confusing untrained range with voice type. Just because you can't hit high notes doesn't mean you're a bass. It might mean you're a tenor who never learned to access his upper register. Not literally, but dehydration affects your vocal cords more than almost anything else. When you're dehydrated, your cords stiffen, your range shrinks, and your tone becomes thin and strained. Professional singers obsess over hydration for a reason. If you've ever noticed your voice feeling off and couldn't figure out why, drink some water. It's probably that simple. Beyond the basic 6, there are specialized classifications that opera houses and vocal coaches use. Things like Zwischenfach, which literally means between categories in German. It's for voices that genuinely straddle two types. There's Spieltenor, a character tenor for comedic roles, Heldenor, a heroic, powerful tenor for dramatic opera, and Basso Profundo, the absolute deepest of the deep. These distinctions matter because they affect which roles you can perform and how to train properly. This confuses a lot of people. You might speak like a warm baritone, but sing most comfortably as a tenor. or speak in a higher register, but have this surprising depth when you sing. Why? Because speaking uses a small, habitual part of your range. Singing requires your full instrument. They're related, but not identical. Temporarily, anyway. When you're exhausted, your muscles, including your vocal cords, lose tension. The result is a deeper, sometimes rougher voice. Some people actually like their morning voice for this reason. But be careful. Singing on tired chords is a recipe for strain and damage. This is huge, and almost nobody talks about it. Higher voices need gentler, more gradual warm-ups that ease into the upper range. Lower voices can often start with mid-range work and expand outward. If you're a soprano doing bass warm-ups, or vice versa, you're not just wasting time. You might be setting yourself up for vocal fatigue or injury. Custom warm-ups based on voice type are essential. Dairy doesn't actually produce mucus. That's a myth. But it can create a coating sensation that bothers some singers more than others. And acidic foods can cause reflux that irritates vocal cords, which hits higher voices especially hard because their cords are under more tension. Caffeine is a diuretic, dehydrates you. Alcohol loosens inhibitions, but also coordination, making precise pitch control harder. Every singer has trigger foods. The trick is learning yours. You don't inherit your parents' exact voice type, but you do inherit the basic physical structures, larynx size, chord thickness tendencies, that influence where you'll end up. So if both your parents are tenors, you're more likely to be a tenor too. But it's not guaranteed. Environmental factors and training play a role. I know this sounds backwards, but when you whisper, your vocal cords bang together in an uncontrolled way without the cushion of proper airflow. Sustained whispering actually causes more strain than controlled loud singing. If you need to save your voice, speak quietly with full chord closure rather than breathy whispers. Counterintuitive, but true. True contraltos, the lowest female voice, are genuinely rare now. Same with basso profundo. Some researchers think environmental factors, including hormonal changes in our food supply and environment, might be shifting the population distribution of voice types. Others think it's just that fewer people train in classical styles where these voices were celebrated. Either way, if you have one of these rare voices, treasure it. This isn't placebo. Stress and anxiety cause muscle tension that restricts your range, especially on the high end. Relaxation and joy literally expand what notes you can access comfortably. This is why warm-ups include relaxation exercises, and why you can't seem to hit notes when you're nervous that you nail in practice. Your mental state is physically shaping your instrument in real time. In the recording world, this matters more than most people realize. Deeper voices often benefit from proximity effect. Getting close to certain mics boosts low frequencies. Higher voices might need more distance to avoid harshness. Producers know this. If you're recording yourself and something sounds off, experiment with distance before blaming your voice. Remember when I said most people are misclassified? Here's why it's so common. Many voices don't fit cleanly into one box. You might have the range of a mezzo, the timbre of a soprano, and the tessitura of neither. This isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Hybrid voices have unique colors that pure types don't. Instead of forcing yourself into a category, learn what your specific instrument does best. 14 secrets. 14 things that vocal coaches, singing competitions, and even music teachers often gloss over or get wrong. Here's what I want you to take away. Your voice is more flexible, more complex, and more individual than any category can capture. Voice types are tools for understanding yourself, not boxes to trap you. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these secrets surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you found this valuable, you know what to do. Subscribe, and I'll keep dropping knowledge like this. Because there's so much more to explore about the voice you use every single day.